But this building was designed in the late 90s, and it was occupied at 2001. So the building is now 13, 14 years old, and I actually just was there last week when I was in Germany, and the building looks actually better than I remembered it, and I think it has to do that it still performs very well, and that a lot of the strategies we used are still working and valid. This is a picture where you see the building as you approach it from the expressway, and as a tall building standing in a landscape, it has actually two significant features. I have to say front end, and this is just not a lip service, but an absolute belief that this building owes a lot to our client. I mean, our client, the Deutsche Post, which was a government agency, wanted to build a building which creates for a new private company a significant image, and through this image conveyed a very progressive corporate policy. The building also conveys that after the capital of Germany moved to Berlin, that Bonn becomes now a corporate center, not just a government center. And the building had particular features because it was actually in the park along the Rhine, and it had to connect seamlessly to the Rhine, and between the tall and the low building there was a public throughway, and there's still a public throughway. So it shares a feature or promotes a feature that architecture and urban space should be integral and connected, and it is not just a monument for the people who are in the building. It's built next to some existing buildings, one of them being at that time the tallest building in Bonn, which was an office building for the members of Parliament. As you can see on these pictures, between the shades down, the shades up, the facades on the two sides being actually different, the building has a tremendous change. It changes literally throughout the days, throughout the seasons, throughout the years, and as a monument in the landscape, the idea was created and surfaced to actually reinforce this signal element of the building in the landscape through lighting at night. And this lighting was not like you normally light a building, that you illuminate a building, but the lighting is actually that the building itself is luminous. And through its lighting, the different conditions, I should have a video because this can't be seen in a still image. It reinforces the different layers between the outer wall. There's a second wall, there's the interior lighting, that it reinforces and becomes a signal of time in the landscape. Here you see in those night pictures that the lights are still on, but as the night progresses, these lights disappear and other effects are achieved with the lighting. So before I go into details, I want to just take a quick walk through the building. This is the main entrance. The main entrance is on a terrace. You can see part of it at right, overlooking this Rhine Park. You can see between the lobe and the tall building that public throughway, which is partially covered, and the low building connects to the tall building, but it does not touch that building. The low building is a steel building. The tall building is a concrete building. You can see that the facade on the south side is shingled. The facade on the north side is straight, and the organization and the typology of the building is quite different from a typical office building. You enter the elevators in the center, and the lobby space is a cafe next to the terrace. And as you move up the building, there are 12 elevators, which are all out of glass, and they're never in a shaft. And the elevator lobbies are glazed. The structure which ties the two half shells of the building together are expressed like everything which you see in the building is what you need in the building, and what you use in an aesthetic way. I mean, the building is all known for its energy efficiency, but I think in so many buildings, one of the most foremost ways how you make a building efficient is actually through its structure. And the structure, both the building structure and the enclosing walls, are of absolute minimal nature, and probably in the long run, considering what it takes to produce these products, its most sustainable features. And you come to as you move up, you look out through the sky gardens, and part of the design of the building was through the building to visually connect and not block the views from the park, from the Rhine side, which is at the right of the picture, and the views towards the city of the other side. And you can see that this glazed walls are absolutely invisible. And when you look back, you look into that elevator core with the exposed elevators. I mean, you see the minimal nature of the structure, and this was at a point when we advanced from all this kind of high-tech looking structures to something which is even more minimal. We used small mullions, wind needles as we call them, to hold up big pieces of glass and create this transparency, and these wonderful offices which are on the four corners of the building. And as you get to the top, there's a roof garden, there's the executive board and dining rooms, and in order to make that place usable, there's a 3-story screen wall which prevents the wind from interfering with the activities. And obviously the breakthrough here is that the top of a building is usable and doesn't just have cooling towers and mechanical equipment. And the other very sustainable feature which makes this building on the energy side efficient is that all the cooling and through equipment and the heating is facilitated with using water from the Rhine River, which is pumped and returned from the building. This is the executive boardroom, and this is the very simple nature of the building. The plan are, two half shells which are shifted against each other. You see the elevators which are in that space, which is only 7 meters wide. The stairs and other secondary rooms are in that concrete cores. This is a typical configuration of a German office building with individual offices of different size around the perimeter. The Sky Garden is in the center, and these colored arrows show the conditioning system, which is bringing air through a double wall, a controlled double wall, conditioning directly or through mechanical assistant heating or cooling this air, bringing it in the offices, exhausting this air through the corridors and into the atriums, and then using this air on the outside. So the return air is also used to condition a great amount of the building. The Sky Gardens, there's 5 of them, 4 of them, and they're separated by those glazed floors. Now it's not just this synthesis of what the building is. It's not just what we created with the wall, but how we then formed and formed the structure, how it hits the wall, and how it does other things. The key in a building, we felt this at that time very strongly, has to be that everything you need in a building should do more than the one thing which is conventionally intended to do. So you see this is the south wall, which is shingled because it needs more ventilation. The north wall is straight. There are operable flaps here, or operable parts of the north wall where the air comes in. There's an exterior shade which is very close to the outside to keep the hot air which comes in sometimes, to keep it away from the windows. And then the cooler air behind gets drawn in through either operable windows. So if the air is too cold or too hot, it gets drawn over essentially a convector, which in the winter heats it, and in the summer cools the air. And then it gets exhausted into the corridor. The structure is formed that it creates coffers for light fixtures, which create more or less a luminous ceiling. And in that structure is a heating, pipes with a heating and cooling as needed, which provide actually about 60% of the heating and cooling in the building. This is all with that water we get from the Rhine. So you see the shape of the coffers at the right side. There's a raised floor which provides all the pipes and the communication equipment and all the things you don't know in the future, which can be accommodated and are very easily accessible. So what you, in detail, this is the north wall, which is straight. You see the operable part. Some windows are open. This is the space between the actual facade. You see these vertical windows in the outside facade. And This is some of the mechanical devices which open the window. This is not what you conventionally find in a building, but this is like, really machine engineered. And then this is the shingled wall on the north side. You see some of the flaps are open or closed. Again, the building wall on the left, the shingled wall on the outside. And these are, again, the devices which open the flats. The goal is to, and there's a building management system which measures everything from the temperature to the wind, to the sun and light intensity, and takes this data and grades through the positioning of these elements, the flaps and the windows, the right interior conditions based on the outside conditions. So this is what the ultimate goal is, to provide a comfortable and a pleasant workspace. This is one of the corner offices. All this concrete structure, the columns, and the ceilings are essentially exposed concrete. There's no acoustical treatment necessary. The covers are concrete. There's a skim coat of plaster applied to it to make the color brighter and improve the quality of the light. These are the small offices. This is a single office with a conference area. You see, you create a very comfortable and open appearance, which, as you move down the corridors, the office partitions are glazed. Actually, all those partitions, all those light fixtures, even the furniture was all designed with suppliers based on the design, and many of these components are actually used and marketed by those suppliers as products you can buy. The base building houses essentially the cafeteria, conference rooms. This is a very large conference room and exhibit spaces, and on the top floor and on the sides, because the facade kind of curves down, is what we call the cell grid. It's a structure infilled with a somewhat irregular pattern of lights based on where you needed more or less light, wanted more or less light, and where the rest is filled in with panels which heat and cool, and which have the sprinklers, the electrical, the light fixtures, loudspeakers, the acoustical treatment. These are panels which are essentially mounted with 4 brackets onto that steel grid, and they also facilitate the acoustical sound insulation from the outside. They become the rain barrier, and in the long term, they actually could be replaced by, once the industry comes up with a product which, let's say, would be more efficient in what we all like to do, producing in an efficient and economical way energy which could be used to support the systems in the building. This shows a night photo from this public throughway. The cafeteria is on that terrace facing the Rhine, and you see the effect of the sky gardens and the effect of those shingled walls. The building, like I said, was occupied in 2001, and it was actually after some break-in period. There were some measurements taken in 2003, and this is the total energy consumptions in kilowatt hours per square meter per year for the conditioning, for the ventilation, for the lighting, and the heating on a standard building. On the left, what was at that time, around the turn of the century, a good performing building, which was the design intent and what was the actual performance. And as you see, there is actually, not a significant, but an increase of 25-30% between the design intent and the measured quality. And this all has to do with the occupancy load of the building, which in terms of this extensive use of computers or 2 computers and anything from phones and iPads and whatever creates significantly to the increased necessity for cooling, which is not something you can control through design. So the result is that compared to a good performing building, we saved 50% of the energy. I still maintain that the structure and the minimalism in terms of the use of the material and the integration of the building, which are all things which you cannot measure in such a chart, have actually a bigger influence. So just to close out, a couple pictures of the facade. Here you see a lot of the shades down. The building looks more solid during the day. Then there are times when you see all those layered parts between the outer and the inner facade, the shades and whatever, which give the building an incredible detailed look. When the building looks very reflective, and when the building looks very transparent, that you almost see every person and every piece of furniture. So this building was actually time up. Okay, one more minute. It was at one point, I think it's important to say, after several steps reaching this level, also a turning point, because from that point on, we realized we not only realized, we focused our ways of achieving the same thing with simpler ways. And there's a series of buildings which obviously I can't talk about right now, like the Highlight Tower in Munich, which was one of the finalists on the 10-year program, which did this and were quite successful. So what's the story about this? No matter what you achieved, you you're not done. It's only the beginning of taking the next step. Thank you.